Hi, and welcome to All Things Cozy with Matt.
And Gillian.
We are a bi weekly podcast about everything that is warm, soft, and comforting. This week, we're tapping into our childhood sweet tooth and taking a sugar laced walk down memory lane. First, we'll recreate some nostalgic desserts, then, reminisce about the treats that defined our youth, and finally, we'll face off in a delicious duel between iconic sweets, tasty titans such as Little Debbie's Cosmic Brownies, and Wildberry Pop Tarts, and more. But first, it's Cozy in the News. First on our news desk is a story about a cat in a hat. And we love cats and hats here. Gillian even bought herself a Tyrolean hat, a German alpine hat, when we were at Oktoberfest in Big Bear. So big cat and hat fans over here. But here's a serious question. Can feline fedoras help us uncover the causes of pet pain? Canadian scientists are outfitting kitties in cute crocheted caps to monitor their brain activity as they experiment with different methods to relieve pain from osteoarthritis. While wearing doilies with electrodes on their heads, these cats with chronic pain are given a spa day with colored lights, sounds, and smells designed to relieve their pain. As we know, as cat lovers, cats are very good at hiding their pain. So we thank these kitties for looking silly as scientists scout new frontiers in the field of feline feelings.
I say have them just make the crotchet hats. I'm fine with these doilies. Get them into production. Skip the
The
science.
crotchet hats.
You have a customer in me.
I want to be part of that grant where they're writing for funding and they're like, we need someone to crochet the hats the cats are going to wear. So this was their solution to the fact that when they would add the electrodes to their cat heads, they're already hard to affix because fur, you can't stick it to their heads. And also, if you have any dangling wires, the cats will chew them.
Oh, yeah.
So this was the most comfortable option that they finally started to tolerate so they could do research on what's going on inside those little kitty brains as they experience pain and if anything changed based on the stimuli of things that they thought might soothe their pain.
And the photo on this article, it's so cute because the cat's ears are sticking out of the hat. There's the holes for the ears. It's adorable. It's like little cat on the prairie. Adorable.
I couldn't have said it better myself. It's the perfect button on this news story. Jillian, what is on your news desk today?
Well, Matt, when Harry Met Sally fans have been dying for Harry and Sally to reunite, 35 years in fact, and all it took was mayonnaise and a presumably massive paycheck to make it happen. That's right. Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan came back together for a Super Bowl ad, and I believe this episode is airing on the Super Bowl, so you'll get to see it then. And they recreated that famous orgasm scene. I don't know if I can say that on a cozy podcast, but I am. And they reunited in Cat's Deli in New York. And they hadn't been there actually since they filmed all the way back in the 1980s. It came out in 1989, but I don't know if they filmed like a year before or what have you. So it's been a minute that they've been in there. So in the commercial, they're sitting down to lunch, and Meg Ryan complains that her sandwich doesn't have that je ne sais quoi, if you will. And so she takes some Hellman's mayonnaise, and then, of course, she is just so taken with the mayonnaise that she goes into the orgasm.
Yeah, she goes into making sounds
Yes.
that
Of
call back
delight.
to that iconic scene where she says women fake it,
Mhm.
and she proves it to him by making a very loud fake orgasm in the middle of this diner. If you haven't seen the movie, well, you should have seen the movie because we talked about it on the show as one of
Yes,
our
we
cozy
did.
romance films. And you're responsible for watching everything we talk about.
Obviously.
And so this is a recreation. I actually saw a recreation on social media recently where Billy Crystal and Miss Piggy did the scene,
Mm.
but Miss Piggy was sneezing.
I think I like that version better. A lot of folks were saying, obviously, these actors just phoned it in for a big paycheck. And my response would be, hell yes. If I was going through life and everyone asked me, I'm sure Meg Ryan got this a ton. She said not so much recently, but right after the movie came out, obviously everyone is asking her to recreate that scene. So if she had to go through that in life and be pestered by one scene in a movie that she did for all those years, yeah, get the paycheck. Of course, if I was in this, I'd be sidling up. I would have pitched this ad to get that paycheck. So my tip my hat to them. The director of the bit, he chose Sydney Sweeney for the end of it. There's a fellow diner, and in the original movie, it's Estelle Reiner who says, I'll have what she's having. And so in the recreated commercial, that's Sydney Sweeney. And so that really took me by surprise. I'm like, why Sydney Sweeney? No hate against Sydney. I think she's lovely, but it just seemed very random. And so then Jake explained that he sees Sydney as an emerging rom-com star, so is like passing the torch to the next generation to have her at the end. I don't know if that connection was made, but
I'm not buying that. Can you name a Sydney Sweeney rom-com?
oh yes, with Glenn, is it Glenn Powell?
From
Okay, yeah.
Twisters, your favorite movie of last year, and you're
Perfect.
struggling with his
I
name?
was like, "Heck yeah, that Glenn Powell guy." Anytime I can get Twisters in now.
You just have to act coy like you don't know his name, like you don't have pictures of him, like paste it onto your wall.
They were in this movie together. It's a rom-com. It's called Anyone But You. So she was in that. It's a typical plot where they hate each other and then they fall in love at the end kind of thing. So she was in that rom-com, and that was a big hit, actually. Made a lot of money. I don't think it got great reviews, but it made a lot of money. I think they obviously just put her in there for name recognition, but we'll just pretend it's to pass the torch of the rom-com. I personally love this commercial because I like when iconic characters get back together. I think it's sweet. Maybe some people say it's hokey and a cash grab, but I'll take it. It's fine for me. I like when actors get their paychecks and they're due if they're nice people. So
Artists need to live.
I mean, hey, Meg Ryan really tried that independent rom-com movie that she made. It was a flop. She needs more money to try again.
It is always great to see old familiar favorites, and
Hmm.
I agree. Even if the reason for the reunion is mayonnaise, we'll take it.
Yeah, I didn't think that'd be the catalyst for this reunion, but slather some mayonnaise on me.
From mayonnaise to a sweeter kind of food, beautiful transition. We'll move from catching up on the news to trade in our press badges for some goodies of yesteryear. So, to kick it off, we picked one of our favorite nostalgic desserts and remade it to review. So, this is really where we got our hands dirty and tried to revive and resuscitate and reanimate these dead desserts.
I don't know, is they dead? Mine's still alive.
Oh, yours is still alive? Okay.
Yeah.
Mine is gone. So I like necromancy this dessert, rose it from the grave, and I'll get to mine in a moment. We'll see if these cozy confections, at least in our interpretation at home, can live up to the hype that we remember. Jillian, you kick us off. What are you scooping into your mouth for a sweet treat that you remade at home?
I made the Friendly's Monster Mash sundae. And I don't know how popular Friendly's were across the rest of the United States, but on the East Coast, they were very big. So I would go there often with my babysitter or with friends, and I would often get the Monster Mash sundae, which, if you're not familiar, is mint chocolate chip ice cream with little ears made out of Reese's cups, and then a fudge hair on top, and 2 M&Ms for eyes, and then a cherry as the nose. Doesn't have a mouth. I don't know why. No fangs. And then in the back, it's a whipped cream collar. That's what I assume that it's fashioned out to be. So in the back of the sundae, you see a sliver of whipped cream.
Like a Renaissance collar, very Queen Elizabeth.
That's the best way to describe it. I ride for this sundae. I don't know what it is, but every time I stare at the picture, and I'm not staring at the Monster Mash sundae in my free time, but just looking at it makes me emotional. I don't know why, if it's just the fact that I have a lot of good memories going to Friendlies, or if this Monster Mash sundae is just so stinking adorable.
Were you crying while you were eating it, Bridget Jones style?
Absolutely. I'll just film myself doing that. I think it's just an adorable treat. And you probably also recognize, if you're a fan of Friendlies, the cone head. I could have easily done the cone head because that's an iconic, cute dessert treat from Friendlies, but the Monster Mash just has a little bit more something to it, and I think it's cuter. So the process of making it, very easy and fun. Just get your mint chocolate chip ice cream, the fixings that I described earlier, and just assemble it from start to finish. I used a coupe. So what you put in champagne, I told Matt I was going to get the ice cream stand. But like, okay, that's a little bit extra. What am I going to really whip out this ice cream stand? The metal cone, I don't know what you would describe it, but it's that traditional ice cream holder that looks a little bit old-timey. But I just use a coupe, and that worked just as well. I started off with a base. So that's the trick that I would recommend. Start with a little bit of a base, because if you just take a scoop to make the head, then it'll sink to the bottom, will be a little bit hidden. I think that, looking at other photos that folks had recreated, I think that was the fatal flaw. They just did a scoop as a head and they didn't have anything to prop it up. Now, my fatal flaw personally was I bought mint chocolate chip ice cream that wasn't green. When I opened up the container, it wasn't green. So I had to take my food coloring and put it in there and just mix it up. And so then when I was mixing, it was melting and it got soupy.
Could you not find green mint chocolate chip ice cream? Or did you just assume that it was always green?
Matt, I'm gonna embarrass myself here. I'm not very educated in the mint chocolate chip ice cream world because I assumed it was all green.
What a faux pas,
It really
Gillian.
was a faux pas. I was humiliated.
Well, the only thing is that typically they do have photos of the ice cream on the box so you can see what it looks like. Was it white on the box?
Okay, I'm not that inept. The ice cream that I got, it was a halo. Okay, now mind you, my partner and dog are waiting in the car. And so I was like, oh, I'll be really quick. So I was running through the aisles like I was in one of those competition shows, like grab as many that things as you can get. And so I found this ice cream Halo Top. Are you familiar with the Halo brand?
Yes.
And it had a green container. So it didn't have a picture of the ice cream, but it was a green container. So one would assume.
Okay, I'm with you. Yeah, if it didn't have a picture, it was a green container, I would have 100% made the same mistake. And I had made the assumption that it would have a mint green hue to the
Mhm.
ice cream, which, yeah, when we think about it, it's not like they're mashing up mint leaves into the ice cream. That color is artificial. I think Halo Top, isn't that a brand that's more natural and a little more hoity-toity? So I feel like that makes sense to me that they would forego the fake synthetic stuff in the ice cream. So you probably had better ice cream, is what I'm hearing, but it just didn't have the appearance you needed.
And I just grabbed it because it was a tiny container and I wasn't going to get the big thing. How many monster mashes am I making? Because I think another point of this experience was yes, it's nice to remember and have fond memories and relive that for a moment. But is it something I'm going to be doing every night, whipping up my monster mash sundae? Probably not.
It could be. I mean, well, did it satisfy your nostalgic sweet tooth so much that you could do this every night or would do it every night?
I think it was a little too sweet for adult me, but that said, it made me so happy. I had the best time putting it together, and I think we do that enough. We don't decorate our ice cream more or make it a little fun. I even thought to myself, like, how fun would it be just to have your friends over and make some Monster Mash sundaes? That sounds a little childish, but I had such a blast doing it. It was fun because just the comedy of errors that went into it. I forgot, for example, the hair for my Monster Mash, the fudge. So he was bald, and I was just like cracking up at that all night. I love the mix of the Reese's cup and the mint. That was a really nice flavor profile. So I could see myself in the future crumbling up some Reese's cups on top of some mint chocolate chip ice cream and then adding a maraschino cherry. Also having a cherry. I haven't had a cherry in so long, and I'm talking about the fake cherries, not the real ones. I don't know if there's still red dye in there. Maybe I'll have to limit that, but I had a wonderful time. It was an instant mood booster.
I bet. Yeah. We didn't have a lot of friendlies where I grew up, but I do love this kind of classic ice cream dessert because I do remember as a kid, like it was really common, even with supper club sorts of meals or dinner, to get that little scoop of ice cream with hot fudge on top of it. And this really brings back that vibe of the kid getting their ice cream at the end of dinner, a slower meal that we're all enjoying. And that day and time we could afford as a middle class family.
No, it's true. And I think it brings back to the point of how important it is for people because that was such a regular experience for many that, hey, yeah, you can have dessert with your meal and that's affordable. One person I saw, they have a tattoo of the Monster Mash Sundae, which is a lot, but it just shows how meaningful this Sunday is to
Yeah.
folks. And also, one person went back, this writer, to Friendlies to see if they still had the Sunday. They do, and it's still on their website. It exists. But they said it really didn't live up to the past recreation. I'm sure the waiter probably doesn't want to spend their busy shifts creating this Monster Mash Sunday. It did look a little bit sad, but I think that's part of the charm. No matter whether it's top-notch production or a little bit sloppier, it's cute and adorable, and it's, like I said, a mood booster.
Absolutely. I do wonder how much this was inspired by the movie Gremlins because
Mm.
the monster reminds me a lot of a gremlin.
I looked into the history and there is nothing. It's like the CAA blackout or something. I cannot find any inkling of history about this Sunday. So I don't know how it came to fruition.
If you are the designer of Friendly's Monster Mash Sunday, please step forward and tell your story on our show.
Yeah. Cue the Unsolved Mysteries theme music.
Well, Julian, for my treat that I recreated, this is very much a solved mystery. There's really no mystery behind the Kudos bar, which was a staple in my house growing up and was mistakenly thought of as healthy back in the 90s. Because basically, if you were a granola bar in the 1990s, you were a health food. And why not add a bunch of chocolate to that and just make it really tasty? And, let's go one up from there. Chocolate, also M&Ms. And to a certain point, it just becomes a candy bar. This was launched by Mars Incorporated in 1986. They were marketing to more health conscious snackers who still wanted those sweet flavors, really trying to merge again the candy bar and the granola bar into one delicious amalgamation, and they succeeded. And they upped the indulgence over the years by adding famous candy collaborators. So they had like a Snickers one that I really loved, and M&Ms. And over time too, you can see there are different versions of the Kudos bar. My favorite was the one that was completely covered in chocolate, like totally dipped in chocolate. But I think eventually the veil dropped from everyone's eyes and they could see it for what it was. And they're like, wait a minute, I'm counting my calories. We're all on Weight Watchers. These Kudos bars are a trap. And they fell out of favor. By 2017, they just weren't selling the way they used to. And Mars discontinued the line, leaving us fans of the Kudos bar with nothing but sweet memories.
I was going to say, I think that's a theme for all the 90s snacks that we're going to talk about. They were presented as healthy, and they were definitely not.
We were really searching for our way to have our cake and eat it too, literally. I, again, reanimated this bar. I went to the grocery snack graveyard and did some chants to bring it back to life. This was very simple to remake, and I learned a lot about like what's in a granola bar or like how you affix the ingredients. So it was rolled oats and Rice Krispies, the cereal. That's the dry ingredient. And you mix that with honey. So much honey, you're watching it go into the pot and you're like, this is horrifying. 2 cups of honey.
Oh my God.
Crazy. And brown sugar and light corn syrup. And this recipe, by the way, it's linked in our show notes if you want to try it yourself, and it's by the Squeaky Mixer. And so you put your sticky ingredients, which you've boiled, together, so it all gets combined, and then you pour that over your dry ingredients and you mix that up, and it basically becomes all goopy and clumpy. And then you put that into a pan and you flatten it, and that's going to be your bar. You have to let that chill for at least 2 hours. I let it chill for over 24 hours. And I think maybe I didn't make it thick enough, or maybe if I had done it just 2 hours later, I would have avoided what happened next, which is when I went to cut the bars, because I just had like this, flat expanse of granola and Rice Krispies all like affixed together in stickiness, it started cracking like brittle. So I couldn't really like get it into attractive looking bars because it wasn't squishy enough. It wasn't holding together. It was like a tectonic plate just like cracking apart at the seam. So it turned into more of like a Nature's Valley experience. If you've seen those memes, like you bite a Nature's Valley bar and the crumbs start like going all over the place.
Unlock some memories there.
Be that as it may, I still went forward. So we melted chocolate, a little bit of coconut oil into the chocolate to make it silkier. And then we dipped the bottom of it and then drizzled the top. And actually, before we drizzled the top with chocolate, I put on mini M&Ms, peanuts, and then drizzled the chocolate on top. So while they did look ugly, they tasted amazing. So I would give this recipe a 10 out of 10. I don't know that it fully reminded me of a Kudos bar because it just didn't have the, maybe it's a mistake I made. Maybe I should have added more honey. I don't know. But like, it didn't have the kind of like stick-to-itiveness or something. That's not the right word. But like, Kudos bar felt very solid. And this felt very like crumbly. I had to eat it over the trash can and clean my hands right away because I got chocolate on my fingers. And so it was very messy. Kudos bars were never messy. They were a very clean, easy to eat bar that I loved munching on. I feel like I didn't get the full experience, but I really did love the flavor all the same. And now I know a little bit more about what's going into granola bars. And yeah, not the healthiest choice, I've realized.
No, my eyes have been opened.
Yeah.
If you still have any remaining, maybe you could just grind it up or crunch it up or smash it up a little bit more and put it over vanilla ice cream or something.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And actually, even by itself, before we added the chocolate or the toppings, very tasty, the mixture. Wouldn't it be? Brown sugar, honey.
2 cups? That's wild.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have 2 cups available in the house. I'd have to probably go out and get more. That's wild.
Oh, and I forgot the butter, Gillian. So butter went into that mix. What you bring to a boil, like bubbling for a few minutes, is butter, honey, brown sugar, and corn syrup. As a real Paula Deen experience.
Hey, at least it unlocked some memories, even though it wasn't exactly like you had remembered. I always relate those to packed lunch. You always get a little treat in your lunch, and I would get those in my lunch.
You're an experienced Kudos bar
Oh,
snacker.
yes, I'm familiar. I don't know if that was my favorite. I think as I got older, I appreciate the Nature's Valley peanut butter
Hmm.
bars. Those were super good. But, oh, yeah, it's just, like, seared into my brain, the image of those Kudos bars, for sure. And this is why we do these recreations, do recipes when you try them out here, because that is a great tip to not wait for it to cool too long.
Yeah, and maybe that wasn't the mistake, but I felt like maybe if it didn't get so dry, it would have had a little more give, and so I could cut it without it cracking.
Mhm.
That was maybe one thing that could be it. But yeah, on the topic of like looking back at the granola bars of our youth, I felt like the Kudos bar was always a treat and special and kind of felt like I was eating mom's version of a snack treat. But as a kid, much more common were those chewy bars, like the chocolate chip chewy bars,
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I can see it in my brain.
which were way less expensive and way more common.
I like the chocolate chip one. I think those were a lot less solid than the Kudos bars.
They were pretty chewy, one
Yes, I
would
guess,
say.
yes, that's the word I was looking for. They were chewy.
Yeah, but the chocolate on the Kudos bar always held it together very firmly because it was pretty much a candy bar.
Yeah. Well, once again, I think that'll be the theme for today. Things we probably shouldn't have eaten, but love anyway.
Well, let's leave the kitchen and allow our delectable desserts to settle, Julian, and whip up a more detailed discussion about the treats that made our childhoods. Looking over the desserts from our childhoods that we haven't had in years, are there any that you wish you could find again?
Mine would be Push Pops, the Flintstone edition. And as I was investigating these Push Pops, I started to think, what chokehold did the Flintstones have on us?
Well, in general, the whole Hanna-Barbera cereals and candy and everything was these cartoon connections. They were like our parents' cartoons. We would watch them,
Mhm.
Scooby-Doo or whatever, but they weren't like fresh new things for us, but they were still the face of every kid's designed candy. I think there was that boomer cross appeal where like it was nostalgic for them and cartoon enough for us kids, so it was great branding. And so Flintstones were
Mm.
everywhere.
I think you got the key there because I was wondering myself what was the connection, but yeah, the recognition, and we'll just lap it up because there's sugar in it, and so we don't need the
Right.
recognition, we just need the sugar. So I love these because I found it very fun to push up the ice cream, and I'm a big sherbet fan, so I liked the orange flavor. And a lot of folks said that these flavors reminded them of children's cough syrup or like the stuff that you would drink when you were feeling sick and you're like berry flavored or something like that. I personally enjoyed the flavor of these push pops, so maybe I'm in the minority here. They just unlock these wonderful memories of pushing up my ice cream and little mess. And I think if I was a parent today, I would enjoy these push up pops because it keeps the ice cream contained. It's not some slippery, sloppery mess. So I'm surprised that they don't have these as a more popular kind of vestibule, if you will, for ice cream. I know there's different versions that are floating around, but I'm talking about the iconic ones from the 90s.
I agree. I loved Push Pops for exactly the reason you cited, which is that they are so clean to eat and just really easy. I really hated when my fingers would get sticky. And so this was a very safe way to have a dessert.
I think they were creamy and just bright. I know it's not a way to describe a flavor as bright, but I started being creamy and bright and easy.
It reminds me too of those popsicles that were in plastic. Do you remember these? They were long plastic
Oh,
strips that were
yes.
very colorful, like red and
Ice.
blue and
Yeah.
orange and yellow. And then you just like tear the top off and then
Yep.
just like
Drink the
slowly,
juice at the bottom.
but it was clean because it was just like that frozen strip.
Yeah.
What were those called?
Ice pops.
Ice pops. Thank
Yep.
you.
We had a ton of those. We just had in our freezer and like they sold them in massive bulk. I don't know if you remember
Right.
that. Yeah. So you just
It was the dessert of like any event for kids. They'd be like, just fill a cooler with ice pops. It costs us nothing, and the kids go crazy.
Yeah. What about you? What's one treat that you wish you could find again?
I mentioned this over a year ago when we were doing our cozy trends and predictions, and I made that really unhinged and
Very
outrageous
specific.
prediction about banana cookies being in because I just had a banana cookie that I loved and it reminded me of this Chiquita banana cookie that I had as a
Let's see.
kid that was shaped like a banana and the bottom was dipped in chocolate and it was just this wonderful combination of banana and chocolate flavor. I don't think this cookie existed for more than a year or two. Some people on the internet claim that they were called Bananarama cookies. Again, I'm not saying anything new that we haven't heard if you've listened to that episode, but I just wanted to reiterate, put a call out to anyone else who remembers this cookie because it has been erased from history. There are no pictures of it online. And we're all sounding crazy talking about these banana cookies that no one can find. It's like, sure, they existed. It's our Bigfoot. But I guarantee you they existed. I guess they just died out before the internet was really able to capture them and their place in snack food history. And so that would be my pick because not only can I not find it again on the shelf at a grocery store, but you literally can't even find a photo of it on the internet.
I have never heard of these cookies myself. I'm trying to imagine or visualize it. I wish there was, like you said, there's no picture. I wish there was. I trust your judgment that they tasted really great. But yeah, I have never encountered them. Maybe I did, and my brain's been wiped clean of it because it seems like there's a mission to erase these cookies from their collective memory. But you're not the only one who's cited a favorite childhood dessert that they can't find any inkling of now in the present. And I think maybe that's because here we can document it all on social media now, and you can easily
Right.
find references. Because one person created a YouTube video on the topic of push-up pops for Blue's Clues. So does anyone remember these Blue's Clues push-up pops? And there's this whole thread about folks who are like, yeah, I know I had one, but I can't find any evidence that they existed. Did they exist? Did we just create it in our minds? I don't know.
They probably existed. I mean, I think there was a lot of brand partnerships that came and went. They would be there for like half a year. And if you were a kid and it made an impression on you, then it would stick around. I know I'm not crazy because I asked my mom about this and she also remembers these cookies. I mean, she bought them. She should know. But I would tear through these. I would come home after school, put on Beast Wars Transformers, and just tear through these cookies level by level. They were one of those cookies that had like 2 tiers of plastic trays in them. Yeah, those banana cookies didn't stand a chance. I'd kill a whole box of
They
them. I
hated
was
to see you coming.
destroying a whole box of cookies while drinking Pepsi. Not Diet Pepsi, just full on Pepsi.
Yeah. Oh no, I think we bonded before how there's like no limitations in my house, like with TVs, nothing. Let's ring the bell for the ice cream truck because I'm curious, Matt, what was your go-to ice cream truck treat as a kid?
I'm looking at our show notes, and yours is actually a better one to start with, but because I'm seconding yours,
Oh,
really. But like, I'm stealing your thunder. I'm gonna go ahead and do it, Jillian. But the cartoon characters with ice cream gumball eyes was definitely huge for me, specifically the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'll let you elaborate on those, but other favorites from the Good Humor Man. A lot of the trucks going through my suburban area were Good Humor. My 2 favorites were the Great White, which was a lemony flavor. Like it was shaped like a great white shark, completely white, very cool looking, and just had like just a really simple like lemon flavor. And the Vampire Secret, which I always liked the look of more than the taste, but it was a chocolate ice cream bar, and then the ice cream in the center had like this mix of goopy red cherry flavor. The cherry flavor, even at that time, always felt overwhelming and disgusting, but on the strength of the chocolate, I enjoyed it. But I want to hear more about your love affair with, as we all did at that time, these branded connections going back to the Flintstones of characters with gumball eyes.
Oh yeah, man, I couldn't have enough of the Bugs Bunny cartoon character ice cream with the gumball eyes. A lot of people, when I was reading up on their memories associated with these treats, a lot of people joke that the eyeballs shattered like glass in your mouth. They really weren't very chewy because obviously they're frozen, and even if you're letting it thaw and melt a little bit, they were rock hard. And I imagine a lot of kids knocked out their teeth from it, a lot of cavities to be had. But I loved about the Bugs Bunny one, it was very creamy,
So creamy, yes.
so creamy, and that was so wonderful. There's nothing like sinking your teeth into those bunny ears and really having at it. And beautiful colors too, like a light pastel blue, a bright pink, and then obviously the white face. And it had 2 bright blue eyes. Speaking of hate to see you coming, that Bugs Bunny, hated to see you. I was really into Bugs Bunny too. I had a big, probably the size of, I don't know, like 5 feet. It was this huge Bugs Bunny that would sit in my room. So I was just a big Bugs Bunny fan. And obviously Ninja Turtles as well. Love the video games, Ninja Turtles. We'd play that with my friend all the time. So yeah, I spent a lot of time at the ice cream truck. I don't know how common it was in your neighborhood, Matt, but
Oh, very common,
oh
yeah.
yeah, all through the summer, that ice cream truck was coming through.
We would chase them down. I'm surprised none of us got hit by cars.
Even on the weekends when our parents were home, I remember hearing the bell and then we'd miss it. One time my dad got in the car and we're literally chasing down the ice cream man. So that's dedication. But he flew by. He really didn't take the time to stop. He was cruising through our neighborhood. I don't know what the business model of that was, but
I second, though, that I think Bugs Bunny had a great shape because you could start with the ears,
Hmm.
and it was very easy to approach, and you got a lot of that ice cream flavor at the top. One of the problems with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle one is that, like, you really got to the gumball eyes sooner than you wanted to, sooner
Yeah.
than you were ready, because you wanted to finish with the gumballs, but then you're like, "What do I do with this?" You'd almost wanna eat around them, you'd, like, be biting on the cheeks. Was I the only one? Like, I
No, I just funny
hated the
imagining
gumball
that.
part of it. I
Yeah.
didn't love that. It was cute, but I
Hmm.
didn't really love it. You really don't need 2 of them either, so
No.
I would try to eat around it, and then finally one half would fall off the stick
This might
after.
sound weird, but these cartoon character ice creams, they were thick.
Yeah.
Like, you really got to sink your teeth into it, and you
Mhm.
felt full after because it wasn't this thin little ice cream. The stick had a lot of work to do to hold that character up. The width was wide.
It was thick with 2 C's. The other ice cream pop that I loved from this era was the Mickey bars with the chocolate ears.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that.
Those didn't have gumball eyes. They're kind of looking more like the Steamboat Willie style Mickey with, like, a very white face and chocolate ears. Again, really always loved the flavor of these and very thick, creamy ice cream.
Oh, I remember him. Yeah, I don't think I got the Mickey Mouse ice cream bar too frequently, but that also unlocked a memory. The Tweety Bird character. How can I forget Tweety Bird? That was also our cartoon ice cream character and was equally as creamy as Bugs Bunny.
Moving away from the ice cream truck, letting them drive off into the horizon, thinking of special occasions for your family with nostalgic desserts, were there any desserts that your family made or always had for very special occasions, Julian?
Yeah, this wasn't homemade, but it's just something that we would do frequently for Father's Day or Mom's birthday. I think even my birthday. If my mom wasn't making me the double pink strawberry cake, got Carvel ice cream cakes. I love a Carvel ice cream cake. I think this might be more of an East Coast thing too, because Tom Carvel, who really should have a biopic made about him because his life is wild, and I can get into that in a little bit. But what I loved about the Carvel ice cream cakes, that crunchy crumble, chocolate crumble middle, and then the icing on top was just so creamy. It was vanilla and chocolate ice cream, and I loved a good vanilla chocolate ice cream combo, sorry. And they did so many cute decorations at Carvel. I think that's where they shine. And I was looking back into the history of it. They have some iconic cakes. I found this commercial from 1987, and it was a pumpkin for Halloween, a pumpkin cake called Dumpy, and then a witch cake called Ricky the Witch. I don't know if the person who designed that had ex-wife named Ricky. I don't know. Ricky is such a weird name for a witch cake.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, this is personal. This is a vendetta.
Yeah, there's just so many cute designs. Looking into Carvel too, I didn't know there was a popular cake called Cookie Puss. The names of these cakes are questionable, but hey, they stick out in your mind and you remember it years later, I suppose. But anyway, Carvel was cheap, accessible, never go wrong. Each cake was great. I never had a cake to complain of that I could think of. But going back to Tom Carvel, I know that he had a character in Seinfeld's Frosted. I didn't see that movie. I was just doing my research, and apparently how he came up with the company, he had an ice cream truck and it got a flat tire one day, and so the ice cream was melting, but he was able to sell a lot of it. So that's how he got into the soft serve. And from there, it exploded, and he was very hands-on. So one of the commercials that he bought, was opening a new store in New York City, but the commercial didn't name where the store was in New York City. So he was so incensed and understandably upset that he just did all the commercials himself from then on out. And Carvel even had its own production studios at one point, which I thought was really interesting. And in the 1950s, he opened the Carvel College of Ice Cream Knowledge, which I would love to be a student.
One of the most wonderful and satisfying rhymes of all time. The Carvel College of Ice Cream Knowledge.
It's an intensive few weeks course just for people who are going to work there to learn the ins and outs, but I would love to have graduated from the College of Ice Cream Knowledge. So here's my vote. Make the biopic of Tom Carvel.
And bring back Dumpy the Pumpkin and Ricky the Witch.
Yeah.
I love that, like, also economically speaking, it's the same shape of cake that was designed for the pumpkin, and then just on the second one, just put a witch on top of it, but it's still shaped like a pumpkin.
That's what I mean. Accessible, low cost. Carvel is always there for you.
Their cakes had that ribbing on the top, like that texture of like
Mhm.
lines that was always so satisfying.
Oh, so satisfying. Yeah. I would go for a Carvel cake now. I'd eat it today.
A dessert that my family had always on special occasions was a Polish cookie called kolaczki. or kołaczki if you're going to be didactic about the Polish pronunciation. And basically, you take a cheese and butter dough, and then you fill it with fruit jam, apricot or cherry, or other flavors, and then you wrap that jelly or jam with the dough like a snuggly little blanket. And they were more fruit filling really than dough, but everything was so soft and creamy and delicious and fresh tasting. Again, usually we had that on Easter or Christmas, but I always knew it was a special occasion when I would see those cookies. And we never really made them. We would typically just pick them up from a deli. So they were always very pretty and dusted with powdered sugar, and a very fun little Polish version of a dessert that our family had for special occasions.
Is the dough more soft or is it like a cannoli? Because it sounds almost like a cannoli.
It's pretty soft, yeah. It's not like a crispy, flaky
That sounds really
dough
good.
at all. It's soft. These are tiny or more bite size, and it's the kind of thing that you like have one and then you slowly start to have another, and you've had like 50 of them before you know it.
Very tasty.
Very tasty, but not very fancy. They're very approachable. Julian, are there any desserts you thought were fancy when you were a kid, but now seem pretty basic?
Andes chocolate mints, and I would pronounce it when I was little, Andes. I really thought they were from like Switzerland or something, but apparently they hand them out at the Olive Garden, which I didn't realize. Not to hate on the Olive Garden, but if you're handed them out at the Olive Garden, they can't really be highfalutin or high tootin, whatever they could say.
Definitely not high tootin'.
Anyway, so I remember I was out with my dad's side of the family who had a little bit more money than my mom's side of the family, so I just assumed that everything they did and had was fancy. So I remember, I think we're at some steakhouse, and I remember they were at the hostess stand, and I was like, oh wow, these are like really high-end exclusive candy mints. They are very tasty. I would still have them today. I like them. They're chocolate and they have the green mint filling, and it's just a wonderful combination. Chocolate and mint, you really can't go wrong with it, but it's a milk chocolate. I just assumed they were high-end exclusive chocolate mint bars, not knowing that they're just Andes chocolate.
I definitely remember these and also thought they were very high tootin', as you would say.
What's your high tootin' treat?
I picked two. So first there was Dove chocolate, which really hit a height in the 90s and early 2000s as like being for fancy moms. And even the commercials would be a woman like bathed in silk, brown silk, because Dove chocolate was like pure silk chocolate. And that was so decadent. And I always felt like I was like stealing from a mom treat because it was too good for kids. This was her special time with the chocolate.
You're absolutely right. I forgot how mom coded it was because I believe the commercials were them just doing like basically almost a When Harry Met Sally scene.
No, exactly. Yeah, no, it was really, it was like a Showtime After Dark softcore thing happening with the chocolate. Another one, kind of in a similar vein, very mom coded, were Snackwells. If you remember Snackwells, they were the diet cake. I remember the flavor being very disappointing, dry, and not really there. But because these like devil's food cake little Snackwells were so low in calories, what you lost in flavor, you made up for not gaining weight. So we have always had a lot of Snackwells in our house.
I don't think I had Snackwells too often, but when you said dry, I was like, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, my mom was fully into like Slim Fast and Snackwells. If there was a shortcut that you could still have a sweet thing, but it would be a little healthier, she was trying that out. And then finally, when we're looking for something comforting and having nostalgia kind of be baked into that, what's a dessert that you always reach for?
I wouldn't say reach for it. I guess it's something that I would wish that I could reach for. Chocolate chip banana bread. My mom would make this a lot when we were growing up, and I love her banana bread. And I'm a banana bread freak. I would make it all the time if I could. I love anything banana flavored, whether it's a smoothie, what have you. I haven't dabbled with any banana cookies yet, but I am a big fan of banana bread. Something about a warm slice of banana bread in the morning for breakfast is so cozy and comforting.
Yeah, I would say for me, any pie, like a fruit pie in particular, like cherry or pumpkin as well, like that's always very comforting. It was like a quote I saw when we were looking for a cozy quote. I didn't use it, but it was like basically, you can't stress if you have a slice of pie in front of you. I think that is true. And on that note too, I remember as a kid, Hostess fruit pies, if you remember them, like you'd put them in the microwave. I burned my tongue many times on a too hot Hostess fruit pie. They still have them around. They are a little too much crust for the filling ratio that you get, but you couldn't beat the convenience of a Hostess fruit pie. And so, yeah, for me, I just love a nice cherry pie slice, always extremely comforting and satisfying.
I'm with you on that. we've shared a lot of sweet memories, but now we're going to switch things up and go into our dessert duel and have our iconic treats from the 90s battle it out. And let's start with some of the most iconic treats there are: Drake's Yodels, Hostess Ho-Hos, and Little Debbie Swiss Rolls. So I organized these together because they're pretty much all the same, though there's a lot of competition between them as a result of that. I've mentioned Oscar movies potentially for some of the treats we've mentioned already, but I think this is definitely the one to make because the Yodels, Swiss rolls, and Ho-Hos were all invented in the 60s. Little Debbie was first, and she threw a little shade. To backtrack a little bit, Little Debbie was the granddaughter of O.D. McKee, who was the founder of Little Debbie, and he named it after his granddaughter, Debbie. And so now she has a huge role in the company. And of course, there's going to be other competitors who are mimicking the iconic Little Debbie Swiss roll. And so she said of her competitors, recently, more imitation products have turned up on grocery shelves. We hope that you do not confuse them with our products. So a little bit of shade there. Price-wise, Drake's Yodels that were invented in Brooklyn, New York are the most expensive, followed by Ho-Hos, and finally Little Debbie per tasting table. So Little Debbie has always made itself out to be the most affordable one, and they constantly remind their consumers from the research that I've done that they are the most affordable. And how they came to be was the founder, O.D. McKee. He went to Europe for a trade show, and he came across roulade, which is basically rolled meats and pastries, and so he decided to create his own version in America. And then as for Ho-Hos, this was the one that really had not a lot of information out there. All that I could find was that they debuted in San Francisco, and they had a mascot, a Ho-Ho dressed up as Robin Hood. I don't know what the connection.
Maybe they thought Little Debbie was like the rich that they were stealing from and giving to us poor, a more economical version of the roulade.
Yeah, it's really strange. I think Drake's Yodels and Little Debbie probably have the most competition. I don't want to hate on Hostess, but I feel like the Ho-Hos just are in the background and you forget about them. I personally had Yodels growing up, and I liked the Yodels because they had a lot of richness to them, and the chocolate coating was a little bit more firm. So you had a nice firm coating, and then inside it was very soft and rich. So in this battle, for me personally, it's Drake's Yodels. Who is winning this battle in your house, Matt?
Ho-Hos.
Oh, really? I was hating on the Ho-Hos.
So here's why. At least as I remember it as a kid, the Ho-Hos, when you would bite into them, that chocolate coating on the outside would stay intact. The Little Debbie Swiss rolls, when I would bite into it, the side was so smooth, the chocolate would crack and come off in splinters when you would bite into it. And that always really annoyed me. And so I think I liked all the flavors of these. I never turned down any. I liked this formulation of snack cake quite a lot. You know, it's like a chocolate Twinkie kind of. You don't get that deep fried flavor. But yeah, shout out to the Twinkie, by the way. Also just like an all-time snack cake that we have to shout out. But for me, I was ride or die Ho-Hos. I could only hear the yodels in the distance. Little Debbie paled in comparison to my love for Ho-Hos.
Well, okay, I stand corrected. This is why it's important we have these battles. I don't know if I ever had a Little Debbie Swiss roll. I bet I did, but when I heard Swiss roll, it just wasn't unlocking any memories for me or any associations. I just remembered the yodels. But maybe that's because it was invented in New York, so maybe it was more prevalent, and I think in New York or in the
Yeah,
East
I
Coast
think I think it
area.
depends on regionally probably what was being supplied. So I think maybe in the Midwest we were getting more Hostess and Little Debbie, and you got more of the Drakes.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. But once again, talking about biopics, O.D. McKee, oh, what a life.
What a name.
Yeah. His real name is Other. He has quite the history. When I was putting together these notes for today's episode, I kept on getting distracted. So every time I would try and get things together, I'd be going down into all these stories about this Other guy. Talk about succession. This would be the family to do it. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, and also crazy to know that Little Debbie is still alive.
Oh, no, yeah, she's in all the photos on all the website. She's subtly shading other competitors. Oh, yeah, she's all around there. She's deep into the Swiss rolls. She's still going hard with that. So anyway, Little Debbie has a monopoly, one might say, on sweet treats, at least for kids and those accessible kinds of treats. So going into our next duel with that in mind, Little Debbie oatmeal cream pie versus the moon pie. And before we declare our winners, a little fun fact. In 2023, Little Debbie got into a fight with Moon Pie. It all started when Little Debbie released banana marshmallow pies, which is very similar to Moon Pie's banana flavored version. In response, Moon Pie tweeted to Little Debbie's official account, "I'd like to speak to Deborah, please." And that just really made
I
me
love
laugh
it.
because Deborah's real. She's out there, but I didn't see a response. So I don't know. That feud, I
Yeah.
guess, just faded into
The
obscurity.
silence is deafening. For me, oatmeal cream pie, hands down. The Little Debbie oatmeal cream pie, 1000%. I'm not a big marshmallow flavor. I never liked Rice Krispie treats, and I don't like all the marshmallow in a moon pie. I always find it very hollow tasting. So this one's easy for me.
Oh, mine would be the moon pie. We're diverging a lot. I like treats that are a little bit more firm, and I think the oatmeal cream pie just is a little bit too soft for me. I love a good crunch combined with a marshmallow. So I enjoy these. And they were fun and they were different. I'm a moon pie gal.
To each their own.
Yes, to each their own.
Here's our next snack smackdown. Hostess chocolate cupcake versus Little Debbie's cosmic brownie.
So I paired these two because it was hard to find treats that just weren't Debbie dominated. And I was thinking, okay, brownie versus cupcake. People typically either grab for one or the other. So I thought Hostess chocolate cupcake. And if you have a hard time visualizing it, it's that chocolate cupcake with the vanilla icing stitch on top,
Yeah, the white swirls.
white swirls. And then it has the cream filling. So, fun fact for this feud, created in September 1999 per Little Debbie's website, cosmic brownies were inspired by cosmic bowling, which is very popular in the 90s. So think glow in the dark pins, strobe lights, and loud music. I just would love to be in the boardroom and be so inspired by cosmic bowling that you need to create a whole line of cosmic brownies. But hey, people love them, so can't knock the inspiration.
Yeah, they're very cute. I've always loved looking at them. This is, for me, a Sophie's choice because I love both of these things. For me, though, at the end of the day, the Hostess chocolate cupcake is iconic and just soft and delicious. I like a soft dessert and I like the chocolate coating on top, and that design is so visually pleasing with the white swirl on top. It's like kind of like, yeah, stitching swirls. Even though it's neon and colorful and fun, those cosmic brownies are so dense, chewy, and what's the word I'm looking for, but just like
Sticky almost.
sticky, yeah. And I always wanted them to taste better than they did, and I would take them and be like, I'm enjoying this, but mostly for the fun color of the sprinkles on top than necessarily the flavor of the brownie. So for me, Hostess chocolate cupcake is the winner.
I'm right with you there. I think there's nothing else I could add to that because every sentiment you shared, I feel the same way. I'm not a brownie fan to begin with. I just think they're too much of the same flavor and they're too heavy. This was an easy one for me.
Take us into our next showdown.
So this showdown, once again, I have to explain a little bit of it because it's like, why are these paired? Entenmann's donuts versus a wild berry Pop Tart. And I just put them together because they're breakfast oriented. A lot of folks have donuts in the morning, and same for Pop Tarts. And the fun fact for this one, per Entenmann's, their rich frosted chocolate chip donut has been the #1 seller since its introduction in 1972. And that rings very true for me because when I think of Entenmann's donuts, I think of the rich frosted chocolate chip donut. And that would be my choice in this duel.
Again, I don't know why you're making me pick between my babies, as I would often eat both of these for breakfast, not at the same time, but like, sometimes I'd pop in a Pop Tart. I was always more of a fan of the strawberry flavor.
Mm.
Wild berry was cool, but I didn't need that to be so edgy. I'm happy with the basic strawberry frosted. But the Entenmann's donuts felt like they were, they were my grandma's choice. Like she would have coffee with half a donut every morning practically while she was smoking in her
Of course.
kitchen. So I have a lot of affection for that chocolate coated donut, like that vanilla donut, or I guess like original flavor donut that's coated in chocolate. So I think for me, even though I love a Pop Tart, the Entenmann's donuts have that familial connection. So I have to also go with the Entenmann's.
That's really sweet. I like that connection that you have. I also remember them a lot in schools. So I would have little parties
Yeah.
or teachers would bring them in. So I think they just have a sweet connection. For me, Pop Tarts, I love the s'mores Pop Tarts.
Those are
were
great.
so,
Yes,
so
I
good.
love those. Yeah, I forgot about those.
I was a
That,
freak for
that's
those.
That's a blast for the past. Same. Yeah, I love those too. The Entenmann's, I actually bought a box of these recently when we were in Idlewild for my husband's birthday. I brought them as like, oh, people can have these for breakfast or as a dessert. And they were the pumpkin spice Entenmann's. And literally no one touched them because they were so sweet as to be toxically sweet. So I think definitely stick to the original chocolate dipped.
Yeah, 'cause I don't remember those to be too sweet.
I don't think so. I think really the pumpkin spice was just a little too, maybe it was the batch I had. They were just
Mm.
like sickeningly sweet. And we have one more throw down for the crown. What is our last duel?
Betty Crocker's Gushers, which I was shocked to learn that Betty Crocker was the queen of Gushers,
You know,
uh,
Betty's always surprising us. That's what I love about Betty.
versus Scooby-Doo fruit snacks. So I just chose to top it off some just fruit snacks because they were so popular in the 90s for kids. So I was just trying to think, okay, what were the most two popular ones? And fun fact for this duel, die-hard Gusher fans will be happy to know that Taste Beauty and Gushers teamed up to create tropical flavored lip balm. So if you don't want to eat Gushers, but you want to taste them on your lips, go get some lip balm. For me, I am a Scooby-Doo fruit snacks fan. The kids love this so much, and they're still thinking about it because there's a change.org petition to bring them back. 'Cause apparently, they recreated the formula to make it less artificial, and that changed the consistency. So I don't know if that's really something that's pressing for all the change.org petitions going on right now, but people are out there fighting the good fight.
I'm gushing for Gushers. I love the explosion in your mouth of a Gusher. It was an experience. The Scooby Doo fruit
Mm.
snacks, whatever the blue one was, the blueberry one, it looked like a plastic toy. It never worked for me. That one always
I
felt like
love
I
that's
was
my
like,
favorite
is this
one.
edible? But honestly, if I was doing a fruit snack that wasn't a Gusher, I loved shark bites. They were the ones that were shaped like little sharks. I thought those were so cool.
Yeah, those were popping up. I should have added them to the duel list. But yeah, lots of fruit snacks. You don't see a lot of fruit snacks these days
Yeah, I
that
feel
are,
like Welch's fruit snacks has taken over the landscape for that one.
which is unfortunate. Let's get some almost inedible fruit snacks
Exactly.
back on the
Bring back the
shelves.
artificial flavors.
We couldn't end this duel without some honorable mentions. I want to flag Dunkaroos, York peppermint patties, dinosaur oatmeal, and Matt, you added this one to the
Yeah, I want
list.
to flag a ding dong. I was a big ding dong dude. I thought those were so tasty.
Dude.
And additionally, I never really appreciated Twinkies as a kid. I always thought those were a bit overrated. But then I revisited Twinkies later in life and I kind of fell back in love with them. Like there's a consistency to a Twinkie that's just really satisfying. And no other dessert or mass produced snack cake is really giving you that fried experience the same way a Twinkie is.
Yeah, I was in the same boat. I never liked a Twinkie, but maybe I'll give it a go. Ding dong sounds familiar. I don't remember it having it too much, but sometimes all these desserts and snacks blend together.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy going through them just in this trip down memory lane of desserts, especially desserts that were like in our grocery aisle and just mass produced for the world and not necessarily homemade. It's crazy the variety, but also the redundancy available. And I always wonder this with desserts in general. Like, I'm so glad that people can make their living being bakers and having cupcake places and all this stuff. But I'm always surprised, like, how do you make your money from a bakery? And then how do you make your money from selling desserts? Because I feel like even when our family would have these things and we would buy them, it would be once a week or like rarer than that. Or it was more common when we were kids, but I feel like it's a thing maybe you do more when you do have kids. Maybe as a childless adult, I'm just not appreciating how much dessert is in our I don't have dessert that much, but it's amazing that there's this field out there of these desserts and they're such money makers. Kind of wild.
Not to get too political, but when I was reading these stories about all these different founders, just to be an entrepreneur, because of most of the people that I read about came from nothing and just had this idea and then exploded. You don't have the ability to make businesses like you did back then. Now it's just monopolized by an extremely wealthy class and they monopolize all the companies. But back then you could just be Other bopping along in Mississippi and make this company. Or you could be old Tom Carvel breaking down your ice cream truck and next thing you know, you have a whole empire. I don't think you can really do that anymore.
Yeah, we need some more snack cake upstarts in the world.
Yeah.
Well, before we start the revolution, let's wind down with some words of warmth. Gillian, what words are you warming up in your oven today?
Mine is from Chef Edward Lee, and he says, dessert is like a feel good song, and the best ones make you dance. That might sound cheesy and corny, but I was literally in my kitchen last night doing a little butt twaddle ice cream. I was just when I was eating my ice cream, I was doing like a little
A
butt
what?
wiggle. I was just like my new dog Canella. She always like wiggles her butt when she's happy and excited. And so I just was so happy. I was just dancing and laughing in my kitchen. Sounds like really manic. It's just bringing a lot of happiness and joy to me.
I
And
love that.
yeah, so that's mine. What about you?
Well, this is a very simple one, but it made me smile in the way that like a ridiculous quote on a sign of Bed Bath and Beyond would have resonated. It feels very much like something you'd see like cross-stitched. And it's by Charles Schulz, famous for creating Charlie Brown. His quote is, "All you need is love, but a little chocolate now and then doesn't hurt." And I thought
Yeah.
that was like, I'm definitely seeing that painted on a wine glass. I just kind of liked the simplicity of that. So just adding that to our little cherry on top. And on that note, we do have one maraschino cherry left in our episode as we end this delicious ride, our candle review. Jillian, what are we sniffing this week?
I was in this shopping center and I realized how much I'm now loving shopping centers being more out and a little bit more closer to the suburbs, I'd say. And so I saw a Bath and Body Works. I was like, how perfect is this? So that's also very 90s, early 2000s. And so it was evoking that nostalgia. So I went in and wanted to see what they had for their Valentine's Day candles. And I found a strawberry pound cake, 3-wick candle. It was retailing for $29.95, but when I went to the register, it came up as 17. So I think they're having a sale at this moment, and we're recording this February 2nd, so early in February. I don't know if the sale's still going on. The fragrance notes, fresh picked strawberries, golden shortcake, and whipped cream. And this smells, speaking of another popular late 90s, early 2000s treat, strawberry cream saver. It is
Hmm.
literally like I am burning strawberry cream savers. And speaking of going to town, I would have a sleepover, we'd be pounding these strawberry cream
I
savers. Oh,
love cream savers. Yes, I
so
love the
good.
chocolate ones, I think the most, but strawberries were great.
So wonderful. And so this morning, I was burning it all last night to really soak up in the smell, and I can smell it upstairs. So it has an amazing throw. It's still lingering, the scent. And I thought it would be overwhelming, but it just smells like literally I just bought a bag of strawberry cream savers and lit it on fire, and there you have it. It's wonderful.
That's fantastic. So it's a wick up.
Wick up, yes, to end on that, wick up.
That sounds amazing. Actually, even I was looking at the listing for this on their website, and half the stores in my area are sold out. So
Oh.
this must be a top seller for them.
Well, if you're in Glendale, I have a ton of 'em.
Good pick.
Thank you.
Well, that does it for this delicious episode of All Things Cozy. Remember that you can support our show and find more cozy content by following us on social media. We are at All Things Cozy Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. We're also now on Blue Sky. We secured the All Things Cozy at Blue Sky Social handle. We didn't even have to fight for the podcast part of it. So there you go. So we're holding on the All Things Cozy for it on Blue Sky too, whereas where you can find us. And if you want to join our book club, get an All Things Cozy mug or stickers or magnets and support our show in the process, you can join the Cozy Commandos on our Patreon page at patreon.com/allthingscozy. I'm hungry for dessert right now, so
Me
we are
too.
going to head off, and Jillian will have her yodel, I'll have my ho-ho, and that will sustain us into the next time we'll be in your ears, which will be in 2 weeks' time. Until next time, stay
Stay cozy.
cozy.